In the heart of the Gambia, a village named Jufure thrived. It was a place where stories were whispered on the wind, where the roots of the baobab trees ran as deep as the heritage of its people. Here, a boy named Kinte was born. He was the first son of Omoro and Binta Kinte. His laughter filled the dusty air. His feet knew every path through the tall grasses. He learned the ways of the Mandinka warrior. He learned to listen to the river and to the stars. His life was a song, a rhythm of tradition and belonging under the warm African sun. He was a son of a proud and ancient lineage. Kunta grew strong and curious. He learned from his father the ways of the men. He learned about honor and courage. He learned to track animals in the bush. From his mother and grandmother, he learned the stories of his ancestors. These were tales of kings and great warriors. They were stories that shaped his identity. He was not just a boy, he was a link in a long unbroken chain. Jafur was his world, and he was a part of its very soul. He felt the spirits of his people watching over him, guiding his steps toward manhood with a gentle but firm hand. His days were filled with purpose. He trained with other boys his age. They ran races and wrestled under the watchful eyes of the elders. They prepared for the manhood training, a sacred rite of passage. This was a time of great importance. It would separate the boys from the men. Kunta looked forward to this journey with a mix of fear and excitement. He wanted to make his family proud. He wanted to become the man he was destined to be. He dreamed of a future filled with family, honor, and the familiar sounds of his home, a future he believed was his birthright. Life in Jufur was a delicate balance of work and community. Every person had a role. The men hunted and protected the village. The women tended the crops and raised the children. Together they formed a strong, resilient community. They celebrated births and mourned losses as one family. This was the world Kunta Kinte knew. It was a world of connection, of deep roots that held him firmly to the earth. He could not imagine a life away from the shade of the baobab trees. He could not imagine a sky that was not the sky over Jufure. His heart was woven into the fabric of his village. One day, while searching for wood to make a drum, Kunta's world shattered. He was alone, deep in the forest. Suddenly, the silence was broken. He was ambushed by slavers, the dreaded Tubab. He fought with the strength of a young lion. He fought with the pride of a Mandinka warrior, but he was outnumbered and overpowered. They bound his hands and feet. They silenced his cries for help. The sky he had known his entire life was stolen from him. He was dragged away from his home, from his family, from everything he had ever loved. The path he walked was no longer his own. The journey to the coast was a nightmare. He was chained to other captives. Men and women from different tribes, their faces etched with fear and confusion. They were forced to march for days under a relentless sun. They were treated not as humans but as cargo. Kunta saw suffering he had never imagined. He saw hope die in the eyes of others. Yet a fire burned within him. It was a fire of defiance. He remembered his father's words about courage. He held on to the memory of his name, Kunta Kinte. He would not let them take that from him. He was a warrior, even in chains. The great ship waited in the water like a monster. It was called the Lord Ligonier. Kunta had never seen such a vessel. It smelled of death and despair. He was thrown into the dark, suffocating hold with hundreds of others. The air was thick with sickness and sorrow. The sounds were a chorus of moans and weeping. For weeks they sailed across the endless water. Kunta felt the rhythm of the waves, a cruel mockery of the drumbeats of his home. He tried to speak with the others, to forge a bond in their shared misery. They were all stolen people under a stolen sky. They arrived in a strange new land, Annapolis, Maryland. The air was different, the trees were different, the faces of the people were pale and cold. Kunta was put on an auction block. He was poked and prodded like an animal. He heard strange words he did not understand. Sold. He was given a new name, Toby, but in his heart he screamed his true name, Kunta Kinte. He belonged to Jufure. He was the son of Omoro and Binta. He was not Toby. He would never be Toby. This was not his home. This was a cage, and he would find a way to fly free. On the Waller plantation, Kunta's resistance began. He refused to speak the Tubab's language. He refused to answer to the name Toby. Each refusal earned him a lash from the overseer's whip. The pain was immense, but his spirit was stronger. He saw the other enslaved people. Some had been born in this land. They had never known a place like Jufur. They seemed to have accepted their fate, but Kunta could not. His mind was filled with images of home, the taste of fresh melons, the sound of his mother's voice. These memories were his shield against the brutality of his new life. He tried to escape. 4 times he ran. Each time he was caught. Each time the punishment was more severe. He ran toward what he thought was north, hoping to find his way back to the great water and then home. He met others who dreamed of freedom. An older man named Fiddler, who played the violin for the master, saw the fire in Kunta. Fiddler had been born into slavery, but he understood Kunta's longing. He offered quiet advice and moments of comfort. He taught Kunta some English words, not to break him but to help him survive in this hostile world. The final failed escape attempt cost him dearly. The slave catchers gave his master a cruel choice, to kill him or to maim him. They chose to take part of his foot. The pain was beyond words. It was a pain that seared his body and his soul. As he lay recovering, tended to by the master's cook, Bell, a deep despair settled over him. He could no longer run. They had broken his body. He feared they had finally broken his spirit. He looked at his foot, a permanent symbol of his captivity. He felt the last flicker of hope begin to fade into darkness. But even in that darkness, a new strength was born. He realized he could not escape physically. Not anymore. But they could not capture his mind. They could not steal his memories. He decided to survive. He would learn the ways of this strange land to protect himself. He would marry Belle. He would have a child. He would not let the name Kunta Kinte die. If he could not return to Jafur, he would bring a piece of Jafur to this new, cruel world. His resistance would take a new form. It would become a legacy of survival and remembrance for generations to come. Kunta found a new purpose. It was in the telling of his story. He had a daughter, Kizzy. She became the vessel for his memories. As he held her, he did not speak of the plantation. He spoke of Jafur. He told her of the mighty baobab trees. He described the taste of the foods and the sounds of the village. He taught her Mandinka words, Kambi Bolongo, the Gambia River. He told her about her grandparents, Omoro and Binta. He told her of a life where they were not enslaved but free. He was planting the seeds of his heritage in her heart. The other enslaved people listened too. In the quiet of the night, in the slave quarters, Kunta's stories were a beacon of light. He was the historian, the griot of their small, captive community. He told them of a world they had never seen, a world where black people were kings and warriors. His stories gave them a sense of pride and a history beyond the whip and the cotton field. He kept the memory of Africa alive. He made sure they knew they came from a rich and powerful continent. He was the echo of a distant drum, reminding them of who they truly were. Kizzy grew up holding her father's stories as her most precious possession. She understood the importance of her name and her heritage. When she was a teenager, she was cruelly sold away from her parents. It was a devastating blow, but she carried her father's legacy with her. She never forgot his words. She never forgot the stories of Jafur. She promised herself that she would pass them on. The chain of history that Kunta had fought so hard to protect would not be broken by this new tragedy. His spirit lived on through her unwavering memory. Kunta Kinte's journey did not end with his death. His legacy flowed through his daughter Kizzy, and through her son, Chicken George, and through the generations that followed. Each one told the story of the African, the man named Kunta Kinte who was stolen from his home but could never be truly enslaved. His life became a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It showed that you can chain a person's body, but you can never chain their soul. The story of Kunta Kinte is the story of a root that held firm in foreign soil, a legacy of freedom that echoes through time.